Hello and welcome to Sober and Savage. I am your host, Lora Harris, and today I want to talk to you about dry January because or whatever kind of break you're trying to take from alcohol, I failed dry January many, many times before I got sober. And I want to share with you three things that I learned from that experience of failing so many times in hopes that it can help you get through your next alcohol break or give you some insight maybe of why you weren't successful as well if you experienced the same thing. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're looking for more sobriety content, encouragement, and support, because that is what I talk about here. I am almost 6 years in sobriety, and I probably failed dry January 4 years in a row leading up to my sobriety because I knew that my drinking was not normal and I needed a break, but I really didn't even know what I was doing and clearly failed because of that. So here are the three biggest takeaways that I had from that experience specifically. The first one was that I could not rely just on willpower to stop drinking. Not going to work. Because willpower, it's not even real, first of all, whatever you're trying to do. Willpower is like this made up thing that will always be overridden by your emotions, your hormones, your already created neuropathways and behaviors in certain situations and reactions to certain things. All of this like physiology basically and conditioned behavior is going to override your willpower if that's the only thing you have. If that's the only thing that you're depending on to get you through is sheer stubbornness and, well, I just have to say no, and that's that. That's not actually a tool to navigate these different things that come up for you to be able to say no to the alcohol. So when I was relying on willpower, that's when I failed many, many times because I had not developed any other coping mechanisms, things to help kind of like bring down the emotional state, to regulate my nervous system, to be able to relax, to combat my anxiety, to be able to be present and enjoy the moment. Like I didn't have any of that stuff, nor was I working on it, right? I didn't have anything that I was plugged into that was helping me to cultivate those skills and to have those resources and have that self-awareness with myself. I was going off of sheer willpower. That's not going to work. So that was the first thing that I learned. The second thing was that I couldn't rely on another person or anybody else that was doing it with me. So at the time I was in a relationship, and with my partner, he was doing it with me. And you probably already know the end to this story because you maybe have been through the same experience. But as soon as he would fail, and as soon as he would say, oh, whatever, I'm just kind of a glass of wine, 6 days in, I would follow suit. Because again, I was relying on willpower, and I also was, having this bond with someone, spending time with someone, and it's like, oh, well, if they gave in, I'm going to give in too. Because honestly, I was looking for the first excuse that I could rationalize to have a drink and to get out of this dry January thing that I was struggling with based off sheer willpower. So relying on another person, while you might think that that could be encouraging and you're in it together, it's also like you have added this extra component of you're wrestling with your own feelings and triggers and emotions around alcohol and theirs. So I'm not going to say it's more of a likelihood that you're going to fail, but it definitely adds some more variables into the equation. And it would be even more difficult to sustain your sobriety or continue in your dry January if the person or people that you're doing it with, if they all cave and give in. And we see this happen over and over and over again. And some of you are sitting there right now and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I've done that. I've already done that. Or I've been that person, right? I've been the one to cave. And then the other person caves too. And then I don't feel so bad about myself because they cave, like this enabling cycle between someone else. You can't depend on somebody else. If you know you want to take a break, you have to like be in that for yourself. So that was the second thing I learned. The third thing that I learned was that I couldn't just remove the alcohol. I had to, if I wanted to be successful, I had to actually change some of my habits and behaviors. So if I think about when I failed and why, and when I gave in and wanted to have a drink, often it was in a situation where drinking was just the thing you did in that situation, whether it was a restaurant that we went out to for dinner and we just ended up ordering our favorite wine, or it was a social event where I had some social anxiety and I hadn't developed any skills to deal with that, but I still put myself in that situation even though I wasn't quite ready for it. And so I had a drink. And that is one of the biggest lessons in sobriety, especially early on, is you might not be able to be in those situations yet. And that doesn't mean that you can't ever be in them. Like, obviously, I navigate all of this stuff perfectly fine now sober, but like in the first 30 to 45 days, that might not be appropriate. You might not be strong enough yet to be in those situations and be successful and say no and stay true to your sobriety. So I learned that recovery or taking a break from alcohol, it cannot just be about removing the alcohol. You have to actually think about all of the other things that contribute to your drinking in the first place, and how do you kind of modulate or regulate those to the best of your ability, right? If you're like, well, whenever it's rainy outside, I get sad and I want to drink. Well, you can't control the weather. That's just going to happen. But if it's like, well, whenever I go to this bar with this person, I'm going to want to drink. Well, maybe you don't go to that bar with that person, at least for a little bit, until you get more comfortable or confident with it. And what's really interesting about this piece, about the behaviors and the habits, is once you kind of stop doing some of these things and you stop drinking simultaneously, you're going to get a lot of clarity about if you even enjoyed those things in the first place. So I kind of joke around, but like I'm not joking. Like there's a few things that I used to enjoy when I was drinking that I do not enjoy sober. Like they are just not fucking fun for me. One of them is golf, which maybe I'll get back around to it, but I used to love to golf and drink, right? I would drink, I would drive the cart, I would play. It was very fun. It went fast. Now I'm like, it's like pulling teeth when I try to play golf because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so slow. I'm bored out of my mind. So that was something that like, I'm not going to continue to do that behavior currently because it's not the same without the alcohol. It's just not. Karaoke is another one. I don't want to go listen to a bunch of drunk people that can't sing try to sing. Just taking it off the list. And I know these sound so funny, but you will have, again, clarity around what people, situations, and hobbies that you want to have. When you remove the alcohol, you might be like, oh shit, this isn't really that cool, or this isn't really that fun. I'm not going to partake anymore. And so just know that if you're taking a break and you're removing certain things, you might actually not add them back in, and that's okay too. That's okay too. So those were the three things that I learned from failing dry Januaries. I couldn't rely just on willpower. I could not depend on another person. And I could not just continue to do all of my same habits and rituals without being very, very tempted to drink, which combined with the other couple things, I would always cave. I think the longest I ever made it in dry January was 11 days. And I remember being super proud of that because at the time, like, even a couple days without drinking was a huge victory for me. So maybe that's where you are. Maybe you failed dry January or you're trying to take a break. But I think whatever your goal is in sobriety or just a break from alcohol, I think that these three things can help you. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're looking for more sobriety content. I am a certified mental wellness coach specializing in sobriety, gut health, and nervous system regulation. And I dive into all of the things of alcohol-free living here. So thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.